Hey guys, welcome back to more family drama stories. My toxic parents and golden child brother hired a private investigator to spy on me and then demand that I buy them a house. Let's dive right into the video. First, some background. I'm the middle child of 3 siblings, an older brother, let's call him Leon, me, and a younger sister, we will call her Britney. Growing up, our family dynamic was, well, pretty messed up. Leon was the golden child who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. Britney was the baby of the family, doted on and coddled, and me, I was the forgotten one, constantly overshadowed and overlooked. My parents never missed a single one of Leon's football games or academic award ceremonies, and they threw elaborate parties for Britney's dance recitals and art shows. But my achievements? Well, they barely even registered on their radar. I remember winning a state-level science fair in 8th grade, and my mom's response was, "Oh, that's nice. Did you remember to take out the trash?" It was not just about achievements either. The disparity in how we were treated was painfully obvious in everyday life. Leon got a brand new car for his 16th birthday, Britney got an iPhone and a MacBook for Christmas one year. And me? I got socks and a $20 gift card to Barnes & Noble. Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful for what I had. We were not poor by any means. My dad's job as a bank manager and my mom's real estate business kept us solidly upper middle class. But the emotional neglect and constant favoritism wore me down over the years. I tried talking to them about it once when I was about 14. Big mistake. My dad dismissed my concerns outright, saying I was just jealous and needed to work harder to earn their attention. My mom burst into tears, wailing about how I was such an ungrateful child and how dare I accuse them of loving my siblings more. Leon, who overheard the conversation, just smirked and said, "Maybe if you were not such a loser, they would actually care about you." And well, that was the day I realized I was on my own. From then on, I focused all my energy on my studies and planning my escape. I worked my butt off in school, got a part-time job at 16 to save up money, and applied to colleges as far away from home as possible. When I got accepted to a prestigious university on the other side of the country with a full scholarship, my parents' reaction was lukewarm at best. "Oh, that's great, honey, but are you sure you want to go so far? Leon's school is only an hour away and Britney will be starting high school soon. Families should stick together, you know." I smiled, nodded, and started packing my bags. College was a breath of fresh air. For the first time in my life, I felt seen and valued for who I was. I made amazing friends, discovered my passion for computer science, and thrived academically. I even started a small web design business on the side to earn extra cash. Meanwhile, my relationship with my family grew more and more distant. I would call home occasionally, but the conversations were always stilted and one-sided. They would gush about Leon's latest accomplishments or Britney's social life, barely bothering to ask how I was doing. When I did share my successes, the response was always along the lines of, "That's nice, dear. Oh, did we tell you about Leon's promotion?" After graduation, I landed a job at a tech startup in Silicon Valley. The pay was decent, but more importantly, it was an opportunity to learn and grow. I threw myself into my work, determined to prove my worth, not to my family, but to myself. Over the next few years, my career took off, the startup I worked for exploded in popularity, and as one of the early employees, I found myself with a sizable chunk of very valuable stock options. I made some smart investments, saved aggressively, and by the time I hit 30, I was, well, let's just say I was doing very well for myself, but I kept my success quiet. I lived modestly, drove an older car, and never flaunted my wealth. My family still thought I was just scraping by as a computer person, my mom's words, and honestly, I preferred it that way. The less they knew about my life, the less they could interfere or try to take advantage. Well, that all changed about 6 months ago, thanks to my dear brother Leon. It started with a phone call from my mom. "Sweetie, are you sitting down? We need to talk about something important." I braced myself, wondering what family drama was about to unfold. "I'm sitting, Mom. What's going on?" She took a deep breath and said, "Well, your father and I have been talking, and we think it's time you moved back home. Leon tells us you're struggling out there in California, and we hate to think of you all alone. We got a spare room you can stay in until you get back on your feet." I blinked, stunned into silence for a moment. "Mom, what are you talking about? I'm not struggling. I have a good job, a nice house, I'm doing fine." "Oh honey, there's no need to put on a brave face. Leon hired a private investigator to check up on you. We were so worried when you wouldn't tell us anything about your life. He found out about your little house and that car you drive. It's okay to admit you need help." My blood ran cold. A private investigator? They invaded my privacy because I didn't share every detail of my life with them? And wait, did she say Leon hired someone? "Mom," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice calm, "why would Leon hire a private investigator to look into my life?" She laughed, a high, nervous sound. "Oh, you know your brother. He's always looking out for the family. He was concerned about you, we all were. You never come home for holidays, you barely call. We just want to make sure you were okay." I took a deep breath, counted to 10 in my head, and then said, "Mom, I appreciate the concern, but I'm an adult. My life is my own business. I don't need to move back home, and frankly, I'm disturbed that you all thought it was okay to invade my privacy like this." "Don't be so dramatic," she scoffed. "We are your family. We have a right to know what's going on in your life. Now, about moving back home—" "No," I cut her off firmly. "Absolutely not. I'm not moving back. End of discussion." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When my mom spoke again, her voice had that sickly sweet tone she always used when she was trying to manipulate someone. "Sweetheart, I know you are proud, but there's no shame in needing help. Your father and I have been talking, and we think it might be time to give us your house and downsize. After all, we are family and we would deserve a nice little house where you live after everything we have done for you." I felt a headache coming on. "Mom, I told you I don't need—" "Oh, I just had another wonderful idea," she interrupted, her voice suddenly bright and cheery. "Why don't you buy our house? It would be perfect. You would have plenty of space and your father and I could stay in the guest house out back. Leon and his family could visit whenever they want and Britney could have her old room back when she is home from college. It would be just like old times." I could not believe what I was hearing. Were they seriously trying to pressure me into buying their house? A house I had nothing but bitter memories of? "Mom," I said, my patience wearing thin, "I'm not buying your house. I'm not moving back. I have a life here in California and I'm happy with it. Now excuse me, I need to go. I have a meeting in a few minutes." "But—" "Goodbye, Mom. I'll call you later." I hung up before she could protest further. I sat there for a while, staring at my phone in disbelief. Part of me wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Another part wanted to scream in frustration, but mostly I just felt tired. Tired of the manipulation, tired of the lack of respect for my boundaries, and tired of being seen as nothing more than a resource to be used. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a storm that would turn my life upside down, but ultimately lead to the freedom I had always longed for. Over the next few weeks, the calls and messages from my family became relentless. My mom would alternate between guilt-tripping, "Don't you care about your poor parents? We're not getting any younger, you know," and attempting to bribe me. "If you buy the house, we will let you have your old room back. We have kept it just the way you left it." My dad's approach was more direct though. He would call and launch into long lectures about family duty and responsibility, peppered with thinly veiled insults about my life choices. "Son, it's time to stop playing around with your little computer job and think about your future. Your brother's already got a wife and 2 kids. Leon, of course, also could not resist getting in on the action. He started sending me links to job postings back home with messages like, "Thought you might be interested in this, probably pays better than whatever you're doing out there. Let me know if you want me to put in a good word for you." Even Britney, who I'd always had a decent relationship with, started calling to check in on me. Her tone was gentler than the others, but I could tell that she had been put up to it. "Hey bro, just wondering how you're doing out there all alone. You know, if you came back we could hang out more. Don't you miss your family?" I did my best to deflect, deflate and deny their attempts to pressure me. I reminded them repeatedly that I was happy where I was and I didn't need or want their help and that my life was my own to live as I saw fit. But they just would not let up. The situation came to a head about a month after that initial phone call. It was a Saturday morning and I was enjoying a rare day off, sipping coffee on my balcony and watching the sun rise over the San Francisco Bay. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number saying, "Outside your building, come down, we need to talk." I frowned, a sinking feeling in my stomach. I had a pretty good idea who it might be, but I really hoped I was wrong. I threw on some clothes, headed downstairs, and my heart was pounding. "Mom? Dad? What are you doing here?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. My mom rushed forward, arms outstretched as if to hug me, but I took a step back. Her face fell and she let her arms drop to her sides. "Oh honey, we were so worried about you. You would not answer our calls, you refused to come home, we had to come see for ourselves that you were okay." I crossed my arms, fixing them with a hard stare. "I told you multiple times that I was fine. I asked you to respect my privacy and my decisions, so why are you here?" My dad stepped forward, his face red with barely contained anger. "Now listen here, young man. We are your parents and we have every right to be concerned about your well-being. You've been acting strange for years, barely keeping in touch, refusing to come home, and now we find out you've been lying to us about your situation." I blinked, genuinely confused. Lying? What are you talking about? Leon smirked, pulling out his phone. "Oh, drop the act, little bro. We all know about your secret life." He tapped the screen a few times and then turned it to face me. On it was a series of photos, me getting into my Tesla, which I usually kept in a private garage, entering the lobby of my office building, which happened to be one of the most prestigious addresses in the city, even a shot of me at a charity gala I'd attended last month, dressed in a tuxedo and chatting with some well-known tech executives. My stomach dropped. I should have known Leon's private investigator would not stop at just a surface-level search. "You had me followed?" I asked, my voice low and dangerous. "We had to," my mom cried. "You wouldn't tell us anything about your life. We were worried sick." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my temper in check. "So let me get this straight. You invaded my privacy, had me stalked, and then flew across the country to confront me, all because I did not share every detail of my life with you?" "Don't try to turn this around on us," my dad growled. "You're the one who's been lying all this time, pretending to struggle when you're clearly doing well for yourself. Why would you keep this from your family?" I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that made them all flinch. Why? You really have to ask why? Maybe because every time I've ever had any success in my life, you've either ignored it or found a way to make it about Leon. Maybe because I knew the moment you found out I had money, you would try to take advantage of it, just like you're doing now with this ridiculous house buying scheme. My mom gasped, a hand flying to her chest in an overly dramatic gesture. "How can you say such things? We're your parents. We only want what's best for you." "No," I said, shaking my head. "You want what is best for you. You always have. And well, guess what? I'm done. I'm done trying to earn your approval. I'm also done being the family ATM. I'm done with all of it." Leon stepped forward, his face twisted in an ugly sneer. "Oh, so now you're too good for us, is that it? Think you're the hot crap because you got lucky with some tech job? Well, let me tell you something, little brother. You owe us. All those years we supported you, put a roof over your head, fed you. It's time to pay up." I stared at him in disbelief. Supported me? Are you kidding? You made my life hell. All of you did. I was ignored, belittled, and treated like a second-class citizen in my own family. The best thing I ever did was get away from you all. My dad's face was turning an alarming shade of purple. "Now you listen here." But I'd had enough. I held up a hand, cutting him off. "No, you listen to me. I'm gonna say this once and only once. I don't owe you anything. I'm not buying your house. I'm not giving you money. I'm not moving back home. In fact, after today, I don't want to hear from any of you ever again." My mom burst into tears while my dad spluttered incoherently. Leon, however, just laughed. "You cannot be serious. You're really gonna turn your back on your family? Over what, some hurt feelings from when you were a kid? Grow up, man." I looked at each of them in turn, my sobbing mother, my enraged father, my smug brother. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a profound sense of relief. In that moment I realized I'd been carrying the weight of their expectations and disappointment for years, and I was finally ready to let it go. "I am grown up," I said quietly. "That's why I can see this situation for what it is. You're not here because you care about me. You are here because you found out I have money and you want a piece of it. Well, tough luck. My success is my own and I don't owe it to any of you." I heard my mom calling my name, my dad threatening to disown me, Leon yelling obscenities. But for the first time in my life, their words held no power over me. And by the way, Ripe Stars, please don't be surprised by all the censoring. However, OP provided way too much personal information, in my opinion, and I did not want to reveal this here on YouTube because it would just dox him. I don't think that is necessary, so please excuse me. So when I got back inside, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, the expensive stuff I usually saved for special occasions, walked out onto my balcony and raised a toast to my new life. A life free from toxic family dynamics and emotional manipulation. The next few weeks were blissfully quiet. And before we continue, Ripe Stars, if you have enjoyed this story so far, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because we are getting closer and closer to 130,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. I blocked their numbers, filtered their emails to spam, and enjoyed the peace that came with cutting toxic people out of my life. I threw myself into work and started a new hobby. Turns out I have a knack for pottery, and even began dating someone, a kind, funny woman named Olivia, who worked at a local non-profit. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. It was a Tuesday afternoon when my assistant Marco buzzed my office intercom. "Sir, there's a woman here insisting on seeing you. She says she's your sister." I froze, my fingers hovering over my keyboard. Britney? What was she doing here? Against my better judgment though, I told Marco to send her up. A few minutes later there was a tentative knock on my office door. "Come in," I called, steeling myself for whatever drama was about to unfold. Britney walked in looking smaller and more uncertain than I remembered. Her eyes widened as she took in my spacious corner office with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Wow," she breathed. "Leon was not kidding. You really did make it big, didn't you?" I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. "What are you doing here, Britney?" She fidgeted with the strap of her purse, not quite meeting my eyes. I wanted to talk to you. About what happened with Mom and Dad and Leon. I think maybe there's been a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I interrupted, my voice sharp. "They invaded my privacy, showed up uninvited at my home, and tried to guilt me into giving them money. What part of that is a misunderstanding?" Britney flinched at my tone. "I know it looks bad, but they really do care about you. They're just not great at showing it sometimes." "Not great at showing it? That's the understatement of the century." "Look, Britney, I know you mean well, but you have no idea what it was like for me growing up. You and Leon were the favorites always. I was just there." She looked stricken. "I did not realize. I'm sorry." For a moment I felt a pang of guilt. Britney had always been the least problematic member of the family, but then I remembered all the times she has stood by silently while our parents lavished praise on Leon and ignored my accomplishments. "Why are you really here, Britney?" I asked tiredly. She took a deep breath and then blurted out, "Mom and Dad are in trouble. The bank is foreclosing on the house. They need help and Leon cannot afford to bail them out on his own. Please, can't you just talk to them?" And there it was, the real reason for this little family reunion. I stood up, walking to the window to gaze out at the city below. Let me guess, they took out a second mortgage to pay for Leon's wedding or something? Or to help him with the down payment on his McMansion? Britney's silence was all the confirmation I needed. I turned back to face her. "I'm not bailing them out, Britney. Their financial problems are not my responsibility." "But they are our parents," she protested. "We can't just let them lose everything." "They made their choices," I said firmly. "They chose to pour all their resources into Leon, to ignore my success, to treat me like I was worth less than you two. Now they are facing the consequences of those choices. It's not my job to fix it." Britney's eyes filled with tears. "Please just think about it. They are not perfect, but they love you. We all do." I sighed, feeling a headache coming. "Britney, I'm going to say this once, and I need you to really hear me. I don't owe them anything. Not money, not time, not emotional labor. I've spent years trying to earn their love and approval, and I'm done. I got a good life here, surrounded by people who actually value me for who I am. I'm not giving that up to dive back into the toxic mess that's our family." She stared at me for a long moment and then nodded slowly. I understand. I don't agree, but I understand." She turned to leave and then paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you, and I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you more when we were kids." As the door closed behind her, I slumped back into my chair, emotionally drained. I'd hoped cutting ties with my family would be the end of it, but clearly they were not gonna let go without a fight. Little did I know though, Britney's visit was just the opening salvo in what would become an all-out war. The next day, I received an email from my company's legal department. So apparently my parents had filed a lawsuit against me, claiming they had financially supported my education and early career and were therefore entitled to a portion of my current wealth. I was stunned by this. How could they possibly think this would work? But as I read through the details of the lawsuit, my shock turned to anger. They were claiming that they had paid for my college education, a blatant lie because I had won a full scholarship, that they had provided seed money for my first business ventures, another lie, I had saved up from part-time jobs, and that I had verbally agreed to support them in their retirement in exchange for their investment in my future. It was all complete and utter BS, of course. But it was going to be a headache to deal with, and the mere fact that they would stoop this low made my blood boil. I immediately called my personal lawyer, a sharp-as-a-tack woman named Vanessa, who had helped me navigate the complex world of tech startups and IPOs. "They don't have a leg to stand on," Vanessa assured me after reviewing the lawsuit. "But they are clearly hoping that you'll settle out of court to avoid the hassle and potential publicity. What do you want to do?" I thought for a moment, then made a decision. We will fight it all the way, and I want to counter-sue for harassment and defamation too. Vanessa whistled low. "Are you sure? That's gonna get messy. It'll probably attract media attention, especially given your position in the tech world." "I'm sure," I said firmly. "They have pushed me too far this time. I am done playing nice." Over the next few months, the legal battle raged on. True to Vanessa's prediction, it didn't take long for the story to hit the tech news sites. Tech wunderkind sued by own parents, blared one headline. Family feud in Silicon Valley, proclaimed another. I tried to keep my head down and focus on work, but honestly, it wasn't easy. Colleagues whispered behind my back, investors asked pointed questions about whether the lawsuit would affect my performance, and even Olivia, who had been so understanding at first, started to get frustrated with how much time and energy the whole ordeal was consuming. But I refused to back down. Every time I considered giving in just to make it all go away, I remembered all the years of neglect and emotional abuse. I remembered how they had tried to manipulate me, to guilt me into giving them my hard-earned success. And my resolve strengthened. As the case dragged on, more and more details came to light. My parents were forced to provide financial records proving their claims of support, records that of course didn't exist. My academic history was scrutinized, revealing the full scholarship I had won and maintained through my own hard work. Former classmates and colleagues came forward with statements about my independent business ventures in college and my early career struggles. With each revelation, my parents' case crumbled further, but they still would not give up. They gave tearful interviews to local news stations, painting themselves as devoted parents betrayed by an ungrateful child. They tried to rally extended family members to their cause, resulting in a barrage of guilt-tripping messages from distant aunts and cousins I barely knew. Leon, unsurprisingly, was right there with them, loudly proclaiming to anyone who would listen that I was a selfish, arrogant jerk who had forgotten where I came from. He even had the gall to imply that my success must have come through underhanded means, since obviously I was not smart enough to have earned it legitimately. It was exhausting, infuriating, and at times deeply painful. There were nights when I laid awake, questioning whether I was doing the right thing. Was I being too harsh? Should I just give them what they wanted to make it all go away? But then I'd remember the look of smug entitlement on Leon's face when he showed me those surveillance photos. I would recall my mother's manipulative tears and my father's angry threats. And I knew I could not back down. This was not just about money anymore, it was about standing up for myself once and for all. The turning point came about 8 months into the legal battle. Vanessa called me into her office, a rare smile on her usually serious face. "We've got them," she said, sliding a folder across her desk to me. "Your brother made a big mistake." I opened the folder and started reading. My eyes widened as I took in the contents. "Is this for real?" Vanessa nodded, and her smile turning predatory. "Oh, it's very real. It turns out your brother got a little too cocky. He's been bragging to his golf buddies about how they were going to, and I quote, bleed you dry. One of those buddies happened to be married to a paralegal at our firm. She overheard, did some digging, and well, here we are." The folder contained a goldmine of information, emails between my parents and Leon discussing their plan to sue me, messages outlining how they would fabricate evidence of their financial support, and most damning of all, a recorded conversation where Leon admitted the whole thing was a scheme to force me to give them money. "This is more than enough to not only get their case thrown out, but to win our countersuit," Vanessa said. "They are looking at serious legal consequences for attempted fraud, not to mention the damages we can claim for the harm to your reputation and business." I sat back, a mix of emotions washing over me, relief that this nightmare might finally be ending, anger at the depths my family had sunk to, and a strange sort of sadness mourning the final death of any hope that we might someday reconcile. "What do you want me to do?" Vanessa asked softly. I took a deep breath and then met her eyes with a determined gaze. "End it. Use everything we've got. I want them to face the full consequences of their actions." She nodded, understanding the weight of my decision. "I'll get everything in order. We should be able to file for summary judgment within the week." As I left her office, I felt as though a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to believe that this ordeal might actually be coming to an end. The next few weeks passed in a blur of legal proceedings. As expected, once our evidence was presented, my parents' case fell apart spectacularly. The judge did not just dismiss their suit, he issued a scathing rebuke of their actions and referred the matter to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges. Our countersuit was equally successful. The judge ruled in our favor on all counts, awarding me a substantial sum in damages and issuing a restraining order against my parents and Leon. As I stood on the courthouse steps after the final hearing, surrounded by reporters shouting questions, I felt empty. This should have been a moment of triumph, but all I felt was a profound sense of loss. Vanessa appeared at my elbow, deftly steering me through the crowd to a waiting car. As we slid into the back seat, she turned to me with concern in her eyes, asking, "Are you okay?" I stared out the window, watching the courthouse recede into the distance. "I don't know," I admitted. "I won, but it doesn't feel like a victory." She patted my hand gently. "It's okay to feel conflicted. They're still your family, even after everything they've done." I nodded, unable to find the words to express the tumult of emotions swirling inside me. As the car wound its way through the city streets, I found myself thinking about the long road that had led me here, the years of neglect and emotional abuse, the struggle to build my own life and success, the pain of having my achievements dismissed or co-opted by the very people who should have been the proudest of me, and now this final brutal severing of ties. I realized then that while the legal battle was over, my journey was far from finished. I had won my freedom from my toxic family, but now I had to figure out what to do with that freedom. As we pulled up to my building, I turned to Vanessa. "Thank you," I said sincerely, "for everything." She smiled warmly. "You're welcome, and for what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. It's not easy standing up to family, but sometimes it's necessary." And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would 100% agree with what Vanessa said here. I think OP did everything correctly. However, I'm curious, if you would have been in OP's shoes, how would you have handled this awful family? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious how you would have handled this. And yeah guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. And also check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on Spotify, Amazon, Audible and other podcast platforms. You will often find exclusive episodes and early access to new content. Furthermore, please check out my Patreon by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or my YouTube membership program for even more exclusive stories. Thank you so much, and I will see you again tomorrow.